No. Keep going. Alan, what's going on, man?
Oh, man.
Alan, tell me what's going on.
Here's our blooper.
Eat it.
Adventure
Eat it.
vehicle.
Adventure vehicle reviews. We are live
Oh,
today.
man. This is bad.
We're live today. We're gonna go over importance of radios. Okay, we're gonna go over importance of radios. You're gonna have to bear with us a little bit because we're still figuring this whole. We're still trying to figure out this whole going live thing and the programs, OBS, Wirecast, many can't.
Nobody cares,
yeah.
Devin. Nobody gives a rip. What they want to know about are the radios.
Let's talk about the radios.
Okay?
Okay.
Major radios we got here is a ham radio and a CB radio. Devin, hold up the CB radio. Let them all see what it is.
It looks like a trucker's radio. No offense to the truckers out there, but it's very shiny. It's very loud aesthetically, as it were. Has a lot of old school type knobs and buttons on it. Some people just can't get enough of it. I personally don't like it.
You say truckers radio, and it makes sense because a lot of the truckers, when they're traveling in groups together, they're not that far apart,
Well,
maybe a couple miles away.
It's simplex. So this is what it is. Okay, so you have different kinds of radios. When you start talking about a walkie-talkie, you're talking about simplex. Simplex means it just goes from the antenna of the radio to the antenna of the radio in which it's trying to be received. Now, if you're talking about a CB radio, kind of the same thing, only it just has more power, so it goes farther. And you can get them installed in your truck or, like we were talking about, semi-truck, whatever. Now, when you start talking about a ham radio is controlled by the FCC, and it allows you to hit repeaters. And repeaters can amplify the signals. It can also send the signal way, way farther than pretty much anything that's available to the public. It's got to be the biggest thing that the public can use. Now, Alan, you were kind of introduced to the ham radio idea when I essentially met you. What is your thoughts on it? What were you using prior to knowing anything about a ham radio?
Okay, well, perfect example is I've had CB radios in pretty much every off-road vehicle I've owned. I've never had a ham radio, and primarily because when I used to go wheeling back in the day, I'd go on trips with groups of 3, 4, 5 Jeeps, okay? Or I'd be out in the truck in the desert, and where I'd be going wasn't all that far away. If I was going on a far-out, desolate place, then I'd be with somebody else that had a ham radio or some more sophisticated communication equipment. The thing about the CB radio is it's a heck of a lot cheaper, number one. Number two, you don't need a license for it. They're pretty convenient to install. And as long as you're with a group that's pretty close to each other, you're fine. It's going to work out
A-okay. The problem is say you all get stuck in the middle of the night and no one's cell phone's working and all you got is CB radios. You can only talk to each other, but you can't talk to emergency services. Now, introduce the ham radio. That's where Devin comes in. And you actually went out of your way. You studied for the test. I'm in the process of studying it for right now, but you actually took the test. Now you have a ham radio set up. We have one in our office now, hooked up to the building, one in the truck. We have handheld ham radios, and it's a whole new world because you can still
new realm.
You can still use it as the same purpose as a CB radio,
That's
but
right.
then even more.
Right. So being able to communicate with someone that is hundreds of miles away, oftentimes, name any local trail that you would find yourself on, any local adventure. A ham radio, probably I would say 9 times out of 10, is probably going to be able to hit some sort of repeater between you and the person you're trying to communicate with, whether it be the wife at home, the children at home. Maybe you're trying to hit another base camp that's a couple miles away, whatever. But when it comes to an emergency, outstanding. Very effective, very, very useful. It's very practical. I really don't understand why more people, maybe it's just because the whole testing portion of it. I'll be honest with you. The test, 90% of the questions that you're going to know, you're never going to have to worry about the stuff that they're quizzing you on. It's essentially memorize the answers of the test. It's a long test. But you don't you're not going to go home with a bad grade if you don't pass it.
Right.
Right.
But how long did you study for that test?
Probably 3 days. And that would be probably maybe an hour and a half a day. And it was literally just me getting on my phone, finding the appropriate study guide and then just memorizing the answers
Right.
for each question because it's the exact question.
You gave me that study guide. Yeah. And I've used it
yeah.
before, but I guess I'm a little bit lazier than you in this fact because I
Well,
haven't gone down and take the test.
You really just have to have the patience to be able to just do it correctly. Because when I wanted to go take the test, I wanted to do it once, and I wanted to do it once, only once, and do it right the first
What's
time.
up, Kevin? How you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Also, congratulations, Kevin, by the way.
Congratulations. That's right.
Yeah.
See us on YouTube. You're going to get some better interaction on YouTube, Kevin.
Why he's not on YouTube already, we'll never know.
What? Not on YouTube already? Dude.
In any case, actually, Kevin would have been a great person to actually bring over here. Kevin is the guru when it comes to radios. He's actually the one that got me on the ham radio.
Hey, Kevin, if you got something intelligent to say about a ham radio that new users would like to know,
write it down and we'll share it on YouTube. Right now, I'll go ahead and write it down.
I'm going to pull up a picture here. So this is an example of the kind of the propagation, as it were. Propagation 101 is what the list, I just found this picture on Google, and you can kind of see it's bouncing the frequencies off the ionosphere, as well as it's got a heck of a lot more power to be able to get your frequency out there and hit the nearest repeater. Or you can just, like I said earlier with the regular radio, just go straight simplex. So I use it with all kinds of things. To me, there is no other option. You can even input your own frequencies, which will allow you to talk to any walkie-talkie. So if one of your guys is out there, he actually has a garbage radio, and he's got something that's very small, you can actually talk to him on that. Now, I think there might be a way to key into the CB radio frequency as well, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Kevin would actually be able to answer that question.
So, question for you, Kevin. We're going to bring you in on this one. Can you key into a CB radio channel using a ham radio? And you're able to program channels. Also, John is here with us. He's asking, did Devin change his office? We're always making changes, John. Always.
If you ever came by and got us some coffee every now and then.
Bring us some coffee, John. That's what we want. Coffee. Where's the coffee?
This is actually a picture of the radio that I use, my handheld. It's Yaesu. Most of the radios you're going to find are, if you get it from another country, you'll be able to actually unlock the radio and use commercial bands, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's an actual better technical term for it, but in essence, this is what you're going to be able to use. And you can actually key into, probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You can actually talk to like Target and McDonald's and all these others.
What?
Oh yeah, that's why they put the restrictions on
Tell me
more
more.
American-made frequencies, but that's what you're getting. You're getting a commercial style radio, which is why you have these licenses and authorizations to be able to use it. But anybody uses anything but a ham radio,
What's one of the big rules about using a ham radio?
don't say profanity and things on it that you're not supposed to say.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of little things. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. Essentially, go take the test. You only have to take it once. You only have to pass it once. You don't have to keep getting recertified. You do it one time, and you're done.
So I got a question for you, Devin.
You get a ham radio and you get a handheld radio. It's convenient. You can come out, you put it in your backpack, put it on your belt, go for a hike, right?
Right.
Okay. But you're out there wheeling in the dirt, going further and further into the woods, as we say, right?
Aye.
What's the limits on having
A handheld radio versus an antenna mounted on your truck. It's going to be better, but is it worth the money?
Absolutely. It's almost like asking. It's almost like I would say the equivalent would be
Thank you
something
for the
like
comment,
this.
John.
The antenna of a radio is just as important as the motor in the vehicle. You can have this
That's a bold statement.
awesome, sporty looking, just rad, cool freaking looking vehicle, and then you can turn around and have this garbage motor inside of it. So if you're gonna do that, obviously you're gonna lose a lot of performance. So you really want to be sure and have the appropriate antenna for the things that you want to do. The bigger the antenna, the better. Usually, There are different makes and models, and it gets kind of technical with that. I don't know the exact
I think I've
specifications.
seen on the freeway a few times.
Most of the time,
There's
if you
some.
see somebody out there with this huge monstrosity antenna, a lot of times
They
you'll see
usually have a personalized license plate with their ham radio
yeah,
handle, right?
yes, they do.
Yeah.
I don't have a picture of one of those, but yeah, I think I do have a picture of.
Kevin says, I taught that man everything he is saying right now, sir.
Yeah, if only he would come by and hang out every now and then instead of going to other countries.
missing you, Kevin.
Heading Tigers. We need your expertise here, N6 KRS. Yeah, I said it.
N6 KRS. Hit him up. Give him some trouble.
So if anybody has any comments or questions or anything, now would be the time about radios. This is like another. This one's made by Motorola. This is not a ham radio. This is just a standard waterproof walkie-talkie. It comes in handy for when I'm doing something very close range, and if I drop it and break it, it's not that expensive because ham radios can get pricey. My handheld is at least over $100.
Kevin's got something to say here. Mobile has two advantages: one output and a power. FRS
Sorry.
radio.
Have no idea what FRS is, but yes, he's talking about how much can the antenna push out and how much can the radio push out, and they kind of need to be in sync, if I'm not mistaken.
John wants us to talk about our parachute thingy. No, we won't be talking about that unless you call it what it is. That is cool. He wants to talk about your wing for paragliding. On another one, we'll probably get into some more of the adventures that we do. The yellow radio you have is FRS.
Oh, there you go.
Now, what else do you have on the table behind you?
What are we talking about
Well,
here?
the radio. Oh, now you're exposing that.
Oh
What is
yeah.
that?
Let's see. So this is my mobile unit. This is a radio that I normally have installed in my truck, and this gets hooked up. It shoots out a lot of power, and with the appropriate antenna hooked up, it really does a really good job at making some sort of base camp or anything that I needed to do. If I'm not mistaken, this one delivers 60 watts of power, and just to show you the comparison, this only does 1 watt. So this is 60 times more powerful than this right off the bat without even turning it on, without even hooking up an antenna to it to increase or decrease or anything. This radio is obviously going to be more expensive, and this one goes in the truck. But even when you use when you use the ham radio handhelds, it's also going to be a certain power more. So it's, anybody that's out there that's ever questioned anything about ham radio, I highly recommend you take a good look at it and do some research on it, because you're going to find a really good community of people. There are people that this is all they do. This is how they communicate. They're a little weird, but in essence, you want that guy that all he does is sit in his underwear and listen to the radio all day. That's the guy you're praying for is listening.
Instantly, I imagine him eating a bowl of Captain Crunch that's been sitting there for about an hour. Because Captain Crunch is absolutely disgusting when it gets soggy.
But
So there's some
I'll tell
cereals
you
that I
what,
like.
though. I'll tell you this. If you're that individual, I'll thank you now, because I have had a time when I have landed my paraglider. That's a spoiler for you there, John.
Oh,
Asking about the parachute.
Heather and
Yeah, that's Heather. That's going to be Kevin's fiance.
oh yeah, she says it's not a parachute, it's a wing.
There you go.
And
In any case, so utilizing these individuals, because the radio is only as good as the people that are listening to it. You can have not a very intelligent person listening on the other end of the radio, and then
Who are you to say that?
yeah, well, it's nice to know that people are out there and they're actually monitoring. So I can actually talk to Mexico from where I'm at, and that's just sitting in my house. But yeah, something else to consider is going to be how you use your radio. If you're going to have if you have a radio that's not waterproof and you're finding yourself waterfalls or whatever, now this doesn't mean you take your radio down in scuba diving, obviously. Even though there's people out there that I'm sure are going to go, oh, okay, yeah. Last I checked, there are very few radios out there that are meant for scuba diving or things of that nature. But
That's interesting.
when I go to waterfall, or if you're caught in the rain or whatever, you're walking next to a stream, it falls out of your pocket, falls in the stream. You don't want it
Well,
to break.
think about it. For a natural disaster, communication's nice to have. And a common natural disaster that we have in the country are major floods. So you have a major flood, it may be beneficial to have some radio equipment that can be at least water resistant. You know, if you're floating around there and your house is under the water and your Ram Power Wagon is now underwater because it's so darn flooded. You know,
I
so
agree.
there's a million contingencies to plan for. I suppose you can't plan for them all, but
Well, Alan, let me ask you this. You were rocking the CB radio like a lot of people do when they're off-roading. Then you upgraded and went to the ham radio.
right.
You've seen its capabilities. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. Are you a fan of it? Did you know about it? What didn't you know? Tell me.
Well, I've known about ham
me
radios,
about
but
it.
I've always known that, you got to have a license and you got to watch what you say. So there's a little bit of limiting, and you got to be a little bit more appropriate with your radio speak. But in essence, I think the benefits are all there. There's really no cons. You know what I mean?
And the nice thing about it is that if you're on the ham radio and you're talking to somebody, usually they're a little bit competent because they had to go get a test, right?
There you go.
So, and they're at least enthusiasts. They know what they're talking about, and they buy it for the right reasons. A lot of the people who are ham radio operators are enthusiasts, and they may be in a
Normal 9 to 5 job throughout the day, but on the weekends, maybe they're signed up with their local rescue for their county or their city.
Right.
and that's one of the expertise that they carry, is that they have a lot of radio equipment in their hobby. So when you have the CB radio, anybody can use it. And I know, you go on a CB radio, you're traveling to Arizona or Utah, and you switch to channel 5 or whatever, and you hear this guy who's just jibber jabbering on about whatever. You're
All day long.
all day long.
He won't
It's
shut
weird.
up.
Just probably because they want to hear
That's
their
why
voice.
they're. That's why CB radio is essentially the anarchy of radio. To have some order and some stipulations definitely helps. Helps you transmit. Some people don't ever get off the dang radio.
Let me pop in here with a couple comments from Kevin. Kevin is a ham radio expert. And let's go up to here. He says, and Kevin's on Facebook right now, Facebook Live.
Ham radio is key because it is effective with and without technology assistance. Good point. Okay, John Butler has a question. What does a ham radio mean? It's ham, an acronym. And then Kevin also says amateur radio can be used as high as 2,500 watts. That'll get you far out there. He also mentioned that from his ham radio setup that he has at his residence, he was able to talk to people in Russia. That's amazing. That is literally on the other side of the planet.
Well, how about this? And I think Kevin could Roger up for this one. I do believe that certain people with the right amount of equipment and when the stars are aligned, as it were, you can actually talk to outer space. You can actually talk to NASA. If someone is orbiting out there,
Ooh, that makes
you can,
that gets my inner geek all excited.
yeah, right. Not that you would ever need. Hey, NASA, I'm lost on the trail. Help me out. But there are times where people actually do communicate with astronauts up there, and they do it by use of ham radio, and they have these ham radio and amateur radio features specifically for the event of, if that is the only person that they can speak to, that may be what saves their life.
I'm just going to interject with a thought that came in my mind right now. I can imagine a ham radio enthusiast, not to make fun of them, but if I was a ham radio enthusiast, like a true enthusiast, and I'm not, admittedly, I am not a ham radio enthusiast, but you ever seen the anime cartoons when somebody like dreams come true and their eyes get all big and there's that little diamond in the black part of their eye? You know what I mean? And they just get so excited and they start to tear up. If I was a ham radio operator and I was talking to somebody and I was actually talking to an astronaut, that's probably what my cartoon face would look like. I'm just saying.
It's by use of repeaters, and because these things are so powerful. It's by use of repeaters, and because these things are so powerful. So you can imagine.
International
Going
Space
back to this here.
Yes, you can speak to the International Space Station when it passes within a certain range in orbit.
Obviously, they have to be listening. Again, with it's only there's the person behind the radio. But you can imagine, he just said 2,500 watts. This is 1 watt, this walkie-talkie. 2,500 of these can be the limit of how much power you can put out. That's impressive. You're essentially talking to the aliens at that point. Moving on, we're not getting really any questions or anything on YouTube here, which is, we know why that is. But in essence, we hope that everybody on Facebook, hope you guys will go ahead and create a YouTube account. If you haven't already, all you need is a Gmail account. We encourage everybody to please get on YouTube, help us get our fan base out there, and really help us make things happen, and put the comments on here, because this is what's really going to get us flowing as a company, and to really get a lot of people involved. But you're going to get a better experience too. Better cameras, better audio, picture overlays, video interlaces, you name it, it's coming.
Okay, real quick before we end, let's talk a little bit into the future of what Adventure Vehicle Reviews has got going on. I know a lot of you are waiting for the TRD Pro Part 2 to come out. It is coming out soon. We have a couple things we need to finish with it. As you know, we don't post videos every single week. They take a minute to make. We put a lot of effort into our videos. We film for quite a while. When we go out on these adventures, it is a no crap real adventure. Okay, so there's a lot of work that goes into it. Devin does a lot of the work back here at the office with the editing. So we are still working on the TRD Pro Part 2 video. It is almost done. Also, beyond that, we have a great lineup of trucks.
No SUVs in the current future, but we have a great lineup of trucks that we have planned to go to some pretty interesting places and to do some awesome adventures. I can't wait to be there for that. And I think that's about it for tonight. Again, if you're joining us for the first time on YouTube Live, we usually go live on Thursday nights, sometimes Friday nights, but you know, last night we had a bit of a technical issue, so here we are on Friday night. We're still kind of working a lot of the bugs with YouTube Live. In any case, stay tuned with us. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. We'd appreciate your subscription. Your support is everything to us. And if you have any comments or questions, suggestions, shoot us an email at adventurevehiclereviews@gmail.com. You can also visit us at adventurevehiclereviews.com. We're on Instagram and we're on Facebook. We're on Facebook Live right now. So, everyone, that's going to be it for tonight. Stay tuned. Look forward to the next video coming out very soon. And then next week also we'll be going live again.